Ruth. Eloise, Lucy, and Ruth. 3 old-fashioned names. Okay. Like go-go? Like, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Trustees for the School Town of Speedway August 13th meeting. We're operating tonight with a 13-item agenda. The first item is to approve the minutes of our July 9th meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from July 9th, 2024's meeting.
I'll second.
Great. Any discussion on that? Having been moved and seconded, all in favor of approving the minutes indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0.
Minutes are signed.
Awesome, thanks so much. The second item on our agenda is to conduct a public hearing on the 2025 capital projects plan. So we're going to open that hearing. Do you say anything other than if there's?
It was all presented at the last meeting in July.
So, and it looks like from our sign-in that we don't have anyone who is hoping to speak to that this evening. So, public comment has concluded, and we'll close that hearing. And with that, we move on to the third item on our agenda, which is to adopt the 2025 capital projects plan.
I'd like to move that we adopt the 2025 to 2027 capital projects fund plan.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on that? And again, this was all presented at last month's meeting, and so if that's something you're interested in, you can go back and call that, watch that meeting again and get the nitty-gritty of all that. All in at this time, all in favor of adopting the 2025 to, is it to 2027? So, to 2027 capital projects fund plan, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. The next item on the agenda is a report of state assessments for 2024.
Well, good evening. We've, in your packet is some information about state assessments of 23-24. And Dr. Trebly, can you pull that up on the?
Yes, slideshow, please.
Is that this?
Bill, if you can move to me, that'd be great.
We're supposed to have signed this, so we're gonna be doing that as you're,
I can wait for you.
I don't think you need to. Go ahead.
Well, the state assessments for this past year, as you can see on the, if you're watching the TV, that, you know, we have a lot to celebrate in Speedway and a lot to be proud of. If you would turn that, Dr. Trevely. Just so proud of what we've done and what we've accomplished, and I think you'll see that as we go through that. So, first of all, we'll start at the high school and work our way down. High school was once again named in the top 10 in the best high schools in Indiana and U.S. News World Report. But also, if you look at the next one, Dr. Trevely, the Speedway High School had the highest SAT scores in Marion County, and we're going to put up on the screen some of those. But there were 360 corporations in the state of Indiana that took part in the SAT that had seniors in high school so they could take part of the SAT. And of those 360 corporations that students participated in SAT, Speedway High School was 31st out of 360 corporations, 68th in language arts, and 20th in math. They were in the top 10 of all the school corporations in the state of Indiana. And you can see that they're the top corporation in Marion County in the reading or the evidence-based reading and writing. A significant difference over the second best. If you'll move on to the math. The math is incredible difference between what Speedway High School did, and like I said, they were 20th in the state in terms of corporations, how they did. And then SAT of both. Again, look at the difference between where Speedway High School was and the next corporation. So kudos to our high school, great job. You know, Mr. Claiborne and his staff has done a great job, and they also said that this is the best SAT scores they've had. I mean, it keeps going up. I don't know how it does it. It just keeps going up, but they keep doing a great job of doing that. So kudos to our high school. If we keep going down, again, we need to congratulate our 3 through 8 grades, our elementary and our junior high school, because they had the highest I-Learn scores in Marion County also. They're also put Speedway's, the school system as the top 10 in all 3 categories, and that is language, arts, math, and both. And when you think of that, now there's 395 corporations that participated in that, 395, and we've finished 38th in English language arts. Think about the number of students we have that don't speak English. We finished 38th in the state in that, 38th, or 48th in math, and 37th in both. So top 10 in the state in all three categories is incredible. The next one is our I-Learn data. I-Learn data over the history of the I-Learn. The I-Learn in our third through 8th grade results is English language arts, and you'll see how that ranked in Marion County. Someone saw this today that I was talking to, and they said, you know, you're not, and she is a math person, you guys met her, it's Ann P.H., she spoke at her, and she said, you guys are not better than everybody in Marion County. She used the term statistically significant difference between how Speedway performs and other schools perform on I-Learn. So you can see how we did in English language arts. You can see how we did in math. Again, and how we did compared to the state and other Marion County schools. And then the next up there is our I-Read scores. Our I-Read scores were best in Marion County. Now, you'll see on the next next slide, that they have not released all the iRead scores for Marion County. I just can tell you, I know what they are, and that will be the best in Marion County. They haven't released them all yet because when you do the iRead, you can retake the iRead, and some schools retake it during the school year after interventions. Some of them wait till the end of the summer school. For us, it's 2 weeks after school ends. Some schools don't complete their iRead scores until the end of the summer. So they have to wait for those to get in, audit those, and then the scores will be coming out soon. And again, Speedway schools will be the tops in Marion County in iRead 3. So if you look at the next page, the historical data, this shows you what we've done on the iLearn since it started in 2019. And it goes from 2019 up to 2024 in math and language arts. And what's interesting about this, and it's probably hard if you're watching this from home, but in green means that we're above the state average. So as you see, we've been above state average in every category but one in 2019. What's interesting is that this year is the last year for iLearn, because iLearn will now be changed to checkpoints. And checkpoints will start next year in grades 3 through 8. We could opt into those this year, and we chose to opt in grades 7 and 8. So grades 7 and 8 are going to do checkpoints this year, and it is a test that's given 3 times a year, a little bit shorter, 3 times a year, and then a cumulative test, a summative test at the end of the year, which will be a little bit more shorter than what we've done. And our 3 through 6 are going to participate in the iLearn for its last year. At the bottom of that page, you can see how we've done in iRead 3 over the years, and if you can see, there's not a huge amount of difference in how we did this year and the years past. And I want to point out again the number of students that we have in our school corporation today that English isn't their first language. It's about 1 in 3 in most of our schools, and some of our schools it's almost half of our students don't speak English when they come to us, and we have 90% of those students passing iRead 3. And if you look at our second graders this past year that took the test for the first time, more than half of our second graders passed the iRead 3 proficiencies at the end of second grade. So kudos to our staffs and our administration. It's just we have a lot to celebrate and a lot to be proud of. The last step on this is just our testing schedule. As good as we are, we got to keep going. So this is our steps that we're going to prepare to be number 1 once again. So very proud of our staff and our administration has done. Any questions?
With our English language learners, do you see the switch to the checkpoint test being a detriment to us, given that, we've had August to March to get them with some language proficiency, and now we're going to have a checkpoint in the fall, a checkpoint in the winter? I mean, are we thinking about that, or is that not, am I wrong?
So the checkpoints are more of what I would call a curriculum map. So it's a way of saying, here's all of our standards, teach these 5 or 6 standards in the first part of the year. We're looking at that today, Andrew, and it's like September 6th to November 14th. September 16th, November 14th is the first checkpoint window that you can take those. So you have about 2 months to get in 6 standards that you're going to test. Then if you don't pass that, there's a checkpoint B that you can take if you don't pass that first one. And this is shorter tests than we've done in the past. And then you have the other standards that will be on the second checkpoint, and the third checkpoint will be other standards, and there's a summative at the end that will be very, very short compared to our current iLearn takes us about 3 days to take, and this is supposed to be narrowed down into a day of taking the iLearn test. So To answer your question, I think it will give us more of a target of what we should be teaching. And we know exactly what they're going to be teaching and what kind of standards that they're going to be doing each one of the checkpoints. And we have an opportunity to fix some of that as best we can before we get to the summative in the end. So it'll be interesting if that works in our favor or not. I can't answer the question yet because we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a concern of more, of this 1/3 to 1/2 of the students who aren't proficient in English, they're taking that first checkpoint when they've only had 2-3 months to, versus, but relatedly then, is it the end summative tests that are the numbers that we'll see on these charts going forward, or do we see those checkpoints? Are those not reported? Are they not tracked? How does that work?
The checkpoints are for the schools to use to see how you're progressing. The summative is what will be reported. So the checkpoints are exactly that. Just check where you're at along the way, and the summative will be, the schools will get those, obviously. But as far as how we do in the end, it will be the summative that they use. Yeah. And then it'll probably change again one of these days, as soon as we do that for a few years. But I do like the idea of the checkpoints. It's just we have to figure out a way to use those to our advantage and use the data to help, like it says in the beginning of the stuff, use the data to drive our instruction. And that's exactly what we do. Ann said when she talked to me about this, she says what Speedway has done is they are very purposeful, they're very focused, interventions are immediate in their, they target kids that need those in the beginning, and they said that, just telling you, it doesn't happen in all schools. So again, kudos to our staff, and there's a lady sitting in the audience has a lot to do with that too. She's tremendous at helping our kids in our programs.
John, what grades again are the checkpoints?
They will be 3 through 8.
So the same thing as what I learned.
They will be 3 through 8, yeah.
Now, we did something like this in 2007 and 8. It was called Acuity, and they did the force. If you can remember that far back, because I was a principal somewhere, and it was really great because you can take that data and drive your instruction from. But make no mistake about it, with John and Andrea and the principals and our instructional coaches and what they do in our buildings, they've been doing this since I've been around. And we have data meetings at the beginning when it was called NWEA, and there's all these different coloring books we've been using for assessments, if you will. We've been doing this for a long, long time, and our instructional coaches are on top of it with our principals. They're just excellent. Then you throw the homeschool advisors on top of it. So what we've created here has been a pretty good game plan for the future, whatever the DOE sends our way.
Yeah, the little bit of discussion that I've had with various teachers in our district, they are not alarmed seeing this as this is kind of like, yeah, it's kind of, kind of codifies what we do anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anything else, colleagues? Okay. We'll move on to item number 5, which is the 2024-2025 enrollment update.
That's me also. Enclosed in your packet is the most recent update as of today. Today we have 53 sections of elementary classes. Interesting is that's 3 sections less than we had last year. We have one elementary class with 26 students. That's a 5th grade at Allison. We have one class with 23 students. That's a 6th grade at Wheeler. We have 2 classes with 22 students. That's a 6th grade at Newby and a 6th grade at Wheeler. And 2 classes with 21 students, both 4th grade classes at Wheeler. That means that 47 of our 53 elementary classes have 20 students or less. That's 89% of our classes, elementary classes, had 20 students or less, which is phenomenal. You wonder why we keep doing what we're doing with those test scores. There's your answer. Great teachers and small class sizes. We also purposely try to keep our K-1-2 classes, our primary classes, as small as we can. And as you can look down through there, they're pretty small. The average class size of our secondaries are approximately 18. It's really hard to do that at the secondary level because there'll be some classes that are much higher than that, depending on the type of class it is, and much lower than that. So averaging that is sometimes misleading, because you may have, a bio class that has 18 kids. Junior high, when I was there, our Algebra 1 classes were 30 kids in them. Spanish ones were 30 kids in them, but averaged out to about 18. The current enrollment at this time is 1729 as of today. That's 25 more than when you first got that on Friday. 25 more students since Friday has been enrolled, and we have more enrolling tomorrow. It's important to note that this is the smallest enrollment at this time in Speedway School since 2015. Enrollment it's getting hard to predict what we're going to have, but the enrollment's going down. In the second year enrolled, the enrollment has decreased at this time of year. But it's the largest the high school has been at 598 students, two students from being 600, and I believe we'll get there maybe this week. And that's the highest that we've had in my tenure here, which is 20-plus years at Speedway High School. So, the enrollment is what it is, and I can almost guarantee you it won't stay the same. It will change. And it'll change probably tomorrow. Any questions?
Thank you.
The sixth item is the presentation of the 2025 budget.
Thank you, Madam President and board members. It's a pleasure to speak after the last two agenda items with the budget. I guess I couldn't tee this up any better on talking about how we spend our money and why we spend it and the results we get. So if anyone ever asks about how we spend money and what we believe in, I think the last two agenda items just rewind, go back through all that, and I can just say any questions on the budget. But we'll rinse and repeat and do this again. Just to let everyone know, the assessed value creates our rate that we have on a few items or a few budgets, areas in our budget that I'm going to talk about on the revenue that's coming in and the appropriations going out. So that does affect a few things. Nancy Johnson, I would say that I would like to thank her, number one, and number two, her team. This is not something that we start on July 2nd and come up with some numbers at this time. This is a work in progress. This is pretty much a 12-month deal. We think about this every day. We talk about it every day on where we're at. So this is the 2025 budget. We all have a crystal ball, and we're going to predict what we need for January of 25 all the way through next year going into the school year on what our enrollment is next year. So there's a lot of guessing that goes on, but we use data to make decisions that what we do. So the assumptions on a few of these funds that I talk about, again, the assessed value should come from the DLGF of Marion County by the end of the week. So I just want to clarify that as I go through a few things. The first one, though, is pretty simple. And Bill, if you can go ahead and throw the screen up. No? Bill? I see it. Really? Okay. As I am the presenter and playing with technology at this time, I think I know what I need to do, but I don't know if I can do it while I'm talking, so let's try this one. How about that one? No? Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, in the old days, we just talked about it, but I will try that again, Bill. Perfect. So I need a screen share that one. So go ahead and go back on me. Just to let everybody know, this will be live on our website. Like always, I will post this. So I'll make sure that as I talk through this, like in the past, we usually don't present it, but I will have this up on the website so you can see exact numbers on this. But the 25 budget, I'm going to flip back to my hard copy here. The education fund is the first one. That is determined by ADM, over almost 70% of the budget of revenue. So the amount of numbers that Mr. Disney comes up with that we have noses in seats on October 1st will be multiplied by the formula, and we get that amount of money per kid. The budget year is coming up in 2025, so that's always important, and that's something I always look at to make sure where does Speedway sit against other schools in the legislation when they give us the number per kid. It is important, and we look at that very, very carefully. So we just came out of a two-year budget, and we're getting ready to go back into legislation where they're going to do a budget year in the legislation. So our education fund with the revenue from cash balance, state report, summer school, interest, cell towers, ECA revenue reimbursements, transfers are where we get the revenue into the education fund. That's not property tax. That's straight from basically ADM and a few other things. The appropriation for the education fund, it's not like if you have a checking account, how we have 1,000 or 100 different line items. We can only buy milk in one line item. You can only put a teacher in one line item. So everything's specific what's in each fund. So as we get the money in, we have to appropriate now for where that money comes out at. So it's very detailed, and that's why Nancy's, by the way, she's been here 30 plus years doing this. And she has almost every line item memorized. I don't, she does. It's really amazing. But anyway, everything we spend is in a line item for that. So when everything's said and done, the education fund from the revenue coming in will be $21,737,499, and it bounces out from the appropriation. That is the $1 million question. So what comes out of that? And that is your teachers, your benefits, transferring money, special ed directors, psychologists. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's people in the classrooms. And that's where the education, it makes sense on that. So moving forward to the second one here is the operations fund. That is a property tax that the local taxpayers pay, and that's something we're waiting on exact for our rate. We predicted high, because we always do that, low revenue with high appropriations. That's how we set up our budget at 34 cents. We believe once the DLGF takes that through downtown, we believe it's going to work out to where we think it's going to be roughly right around 32, 31 cents. And that's about where we've been for the last 4 or 5 years on that. That's property tax for the revenue coming in, and then there's other types of taxes like excise, the banks with the financial institutes. Again, those are all monies coming into the operations, the appropriations that are going out. Again, this will be on the line tomorrow. Will be from the maintenance buildings, maintenance grounds, it's operations. It's everything pretty much outside of the classroom, from the central office to utilities, insurance, repairs. So looking at that, we went ahead and set it at 34 cents. Again, the DLGF and the downtown will come back, and it'll be slightly lower than that. We're building here. So the next one is the referendum. And thank goodness 2 years ago, the reason we have small schools, the reason our results are the way they are, the reason, thank you board for allowing all this to happen and let our people do their jobs inside the classrooms. We believe 183 days in teaching bell to bell, Monday to Friday is the difference. We put as much support in the classroom as possible, and this referendum is the reason for this. If we have a referendum in a school district, everyone pays this amount. So we asked for the taxpayers 2 years ago to a max of 59 cents. We've never really gotten out of the 52 range, 53 range. And again, we believe that around 52 cents is where our referendum, once we get the assessed value, that's where we'll land on the referendum. Again, pretty good punch for what you're going to get out of this. Again, small classrooms, neighborhood schools. We believe in what we're doing from the board to the administration, to the teachers, to the community. If that's what you want, then we're doing a pretty good job on that. So we're not looking at raising the referendum, which affects everybody in the district. And I'm talking about a tax unit district. There is no effect on that, or it affects all and everyone, but we're looking at keeping it very similar to where it was last year. Now, the next page is probably the talk around town, the debt fund that we've been running anywhere from 4 cents to 6 to 7 cents. We have some facilities that desperately need help, and they're condemning. So we are moving forward with a project that next meeting, hopefully we'll have a lot of renderings and finally get all that rolled out with our team. Although this seems like a lot, this is on the 1% cap. So 90% of Speedway residents are at the 1% cap. So anything we change in the debt fund will not affect 90% of the residents. The other 10%, under 150,000, there'll be a slight increase. But again, from what we've done in our studies, the increase of the debt fund at 38 cents, which will be knocked down over the DLGF when they get a hold of this, this will raise the money to pay back the debt that we're using to rebuild our facilities that are brand new facility of 1962. Eventually things fall apart. So all that's going to be laid out, and then we're going to roll that out in the next meeting with renderings and where we've been working the team for the last almost year. We've been talking about it for 20 years, but we've been working on it for the last year on that. So we're excited about that as the debt will go up. But again, 90% of the residents are above 150,000 assessed value, and it will be no effect. The last fund, before we get to the overall summary, is the rainy day fund. We've been working hard to roll money in. Again, we have that money up for a rainy day. We're about where we are with other corporations, but it will be at $6,035,501. And we did appropriate more money this time, just going into the construction, so we have cash at hand if we need to spend it. But we're not, again, hopefully we don't have to do that. Finally, the tax rate and the fund, we're going to end on the last page here. And if I can get this right, can I go back to this if that's okay with you guys?
Yeah.
So I can put this up for the community to see. We're kind of a short meeting here, so I'm going to go back and figure this out since I'm doing both here in just a second. But the predicted is the referendum at the end of the day will advertise, like I said, at 53. We think it's going to end at 52, which is less than last year, but it will be very, very close. And that does affect everybody. Operations is the 1% cap, so we're maxed out the operations anyway at 31 cents. That's the same as roughly as last year. The debt will have the increase. Again, with the 1% cappers, 90% will not be affected. So the total will put us in the bottom three of Marion County still at $1.17. So I think that's what a lot of people want to hear, where we at with that, with everything, the way property taxes are done today, which could be a change for next year in the legislation. We feel very confident where we're at. We're very confident that, maybe confidence not the word, we're very happy that we did a referendum 2 years ago, and let's be clear on this, that legislation changed that so you have to share referendum to other students going to other places, and we won't sunset that until 2032. So we got in right before this, and I think now's the right time to do this project and get it going because things could change for a lot of tax units in general down the road. So this is the 25 budget. Again, this is in 5 months down the road through the whole next year. And just thank you guys for your willingness to listen and to move this on to the town council.
Great. Any comments?
Just thank you to you and Nancy for all your work on this.
The next item is to approve the resolution authorizing the superintendent to reduce the 24 budget appropriations across all funds as necessary to fund the 2025 budget. Which, sorry, is you too.
I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the superintendent to reduce the 2024 budget appropriations across all funds as necessary to fund the 2025 budget.
I'll second.
I think if our fearless leader here wasn't working on this computer issue, this is a pretty standard matter that just kind of moves, we're authorizing some money being moved and then it gets moved back, and it happens we do this a handful of times every year. Okay, all in favor of approving this resolution as first read, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. And we're going to sign it at the right time this time. Okay. The 8th item is to approve contracted services agreement.
Evening. All right. We have a handful of providers in our school district that provide special services under a contract, meaning they're paid hourly as opposed to being under a type of teacher contract. And I'm speaking about physical therapists, some occupational therapists, behavior consultants, so people who are providing services to students with special needs. We presented those contracts to you in June, and then in July, one of our occupational therapists decided to retire. So in your packet, I have a proposed new contractor to take the place of that person. And just to clarify, that occupational therapist worked full-time, was retired, and did this 1 day a week for us as a contractor and was wonderful, but decided she was ready to be fully retired. So I come back to you proposing the contract of a new occupational therapist. That person will work with us for a handful of hours a week, supporting the occupational therapy needs at Newby and Wheeler. And you have a comparison there of that person's rate. We're proposing to go with an individual contractor versus a staffing agency. Cost effective, and there's other benefits to being with an individual. With that said, so I guess the real ask is approving this person to be our contracted occupational therapist. I also included in here consideration of what I would call kind of in case of emergency, non-binding agreements for some unique situations that I'd like to just have on file in case we have to use them. So one of those would be, the first is a non-binding agreement with a staffing company called Emergis. We've not had to use a staffing company for any special need services in our district, but if we would, a lot of districts are having to, just unforeseen circumstances come up. For example, if one of our wonderful contracted therapists, if something happened and we needed somebody to step in for even a short period of time, having an agreement signed would mean that we could make that decision if we had to and start somebody of quality right away without waiting for the next month's board meeting. And know that those would just be in cases where we had to. We'd always post, we'd always be interviewing people and making sure they're people who we want to have with our students, but it would allow us that flexibility if we find ourselves in a situation like that.
It sounds kind of like a substitute teacher.
Yes, yep. And I've had some great conversations with staffing agencies, learned a lot about how they operate, and a lot of that's outlined in here for this particular company, but it could be for a therapist, it could be for a paraprofessional position. So just something to have in the back pocket if we need a short-term solution. The other non-binding agreement for your consideration is also one that we may never touch, but we had to a couple of years ago. We have obligations to provide transportation for some particular needs. For example, students who require transportation to a particular special needs program, or some students in homeless situations. And so we do contract with Miller Transportation for a couple of school bus routes, but we've had situations where we can't fit a particular need on a school bus route. And so we've had to exercise other options for transportation. Again, few and far between, but 2 years ago, we did use this company, Everdriven, to provide transportation short-term to a student in a situation, extenuating circumstance. And this, again, is just something to have on file in case we'd find ourselves in one of those situations. There are a few companies out there that offer unique transportation solutions. And so we have a current agreement with a company called Hop Skip Drive, and our one with Everdriven has just expired. So this would be re-signing that to allow us to kind of shop those options if we'd have to at some point this school year. So,
Sounds great.
right.
What's the board's pleasure on this?
I'd like to move that we approve the contracted services agreements as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'll recuse myself.
Until then. That's for this.
What you doing?
I'm doing the number 8.
Not the extended.
You're good. You can vote.
You're good on this one?
Okay.
Thank you. I
right.
mean, that seems super proactive, and, you know, I love, yeah, so it seems great to me.
Yeah.
All in favor of approving the contracted services agreement as outlined, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 5-0. The ninth item is to approve extended contracts.
Thank you, Madam President. The recommendation is to approve the following extended contracts like we have in the past. Joe Smith, Guidance Counselor at Junior High, Chuck Bennett, Guidance Counselor High School, Misty Davenport, Guidance Counselor High School. Those are 5 days apiece. And Sarah Ackerman, Innovations Class Period 1.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure on this?
I move that we approve the extended contracts.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on this? And this is what you're,
recuse.
yeah. Okay, all in favor of approving the extended contract, indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 4-0. The 10th item is to acknowledge the grants received to the tune of $68,385.06. And that's great. The 11th item is personnel report.
Several items for your consideration on the August personnel report. Start with resignations. Resignation of the following staff members: Lisa Simmons, cafeteria manager, 6-hour at Newby Elementary. Jeff Mahan as the head girls golf coach at Speedway Junior High School. And Brittany Liggett, an elementary teacher. A disability leave for Elizabeth Simpson. She's an elementary teacher that's teaching computers. Then under employment, Tia Allen, cafeteria worker, 4-hour Speedway Junior High School. Kaylee Armstrong, assistant cheerleading coach at Speedway High School. Esther Amber, functional academics life skills teacher at Fisher Elementary. Jacob Oglesby, physical education health science teacher at Speedway High School. Sadie Flum, science English learner teacher at Speedway High School. Susan Mantala, cafeteria manager, 6-hour position at Newby Elementary. Amy Delisle, elementary teacher. Emma Merrick, cafeteria worker at Speedway Junior High School, 4-hour. Luke Charbonneau, assistant boys soccer coach at Speedway High School, and he'll split that stipend with Alejandro Ruiz, assistant boys soccer coach at Speedway High School. Volunteer coaches. Eric Craig is being recommended as the volunteer coach for the varsity football at Speedway High School. Zachary Reichley, varsity football coach at Speedway High School. Stevie Flum, volleyball coach at Speedway High School. And Billy Jarrett, volleyball coach at Speedway High School. The beginning of the year is the time we fill many open coaching and sponsorship positions, and in your packet is an up-to-date listing of ECA positions and the individuals that we are paying to sponsor or coach these positions. Many of these positions are filled with the same person from the previous year, and they're going to be listed in black ink in your packet. If we have an employee that's new to one of these positions, they're listed in blue ink. So if an employee was with us last year and they're now in a new position, they're in blue. But a new employee to our corporation filling one of these positions is listed in green ink, and they've been included on the personnel report because it'll be the first time you've seen anything about them. All new employees have an application information in your board packets. With that, I would ask that you approve the personnel report as presented.
I'll move to approve the personnel report as written.
I'll second that.
Do you have any discussion on that?
Just that it's great to see so many former spark plugs coming back to support
Yeah.
and serve their community, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's been great. And you're also not,
Recuse.
yeah. So all in favor of approving the personnel report indicate by raising your hand. And that passes 4-0. And the next item is recognition of visitors, and other business. And we have a visitor, and can you, yes, tell us your name and let us know what you want to talk to us about.
Sure. My name is Sean Anderson. I'm representing the Lindy Advanced Materials Technology Building, formerly Praxair Surface Technology. And I come to you tonight to request your approval for making a monetary donation to the Sarah Ackerman's 3D print classroom. Last year we got the approval to help her build the classroom with the printers. And this year we want to also be able to help support that new project with any of the filaments and supplies, whatever she deems she needs to help support the lab. So I'm looking for your approval to make a monetary donation.
You're here.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah, I'm not sure if that's a voting item.
We'll accept.
Yeah. Well, I think we unanimously accept. Awesome.
This is not the first time, and I just
Yes.
know that Lindy, this has been a continuous, and we thank Lindy and
Oh,
everything
gosh.
that you guys have done. And Sarah Ackerman, if there's anybody out in the community that their child has been through Sarah Ackerman, you know it. She changes lives.
Yeah.
So we're happy to
Changes
help.
lives, and we thank you for that. And she does that Class 0 also, that was, as we
Yes.
just approved. And kids sign up, and they have to get up like at 7 in the morning to go to that class, and they want to, most of them, so. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Very much. Yeah.
And thanks for coming and being here. So, any other business?
I'd like one more shot at this.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, Bill, can you try again? I know it's in my display, and my computer just decided to do an update. Bill? No, hang on, stand by. Okay, we're getting close. And we practice this too. It's in my display. And right before I got down, you can take me off. I had to give it a shot.
Well,
here.
our visitor
Right
has to
before we
stand up.
came down.
Hold on,
We need a
hold
little more
on,
help. Yes. The what?
Windows key and P.
Did you say P? Mm-hmm. Okay. Bill, can you put me back up? I really want to show this slide. And my computer restarted, and I lose my mouse when I do that. Let's try it this way in the cursor. Oh, boom.
You're invited to every board meeting.
Next time, let's not wait like 30 minutes. Come on up. So just to let you know, community, that I run my own technology, and I am the PR, I am the communications director. So I do all my own stuff here. So this is a computer I usually don't use. So just know we're trying to say, I do a lot of different things. I just fail at this part here, so. Good, let me go back to the budget presentation. I don't know how to get this part off. I don't want to mess it up, but you can see where we're at on the last from 2016 to 2025. Again, once again, we don't have the assessed value, so we feel pretty confident. We're going to go, again, appropriate high with low revenue so we can make the budget work. So as you can see, the 53 cents, we're at 52. We think predicted it's going to end up at 52 for the referendum. Operations, 31.05. Debt, 34 cents. And then with that debt, again, that eliminates people there at that 90%. We do know that $1.17 is more than we're used to, but with people at the 1% caps, we feel like we're still going to be in a good spot there. And with that, we're going to come out with brand new facilities that you're going to be proud of, and we're excited about those. So that's coming down the pipe. That's the reason why, the why on that. And that's the most important slide on that. So we'll come back to this in September when the updated numbers come through, so everybody feels comfortable with that. They can see it. Again, our board doesn't vote on that. We do advance that forward to the town council, and we move forward on that side. So somewhere between, I think it's in October, we get the official numbers back, and we play catch up on everything we do. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we will adjourn to sign claims. Thanks so much.
Thank you.